How's everybody doing?
Morning.
You guys alive? Come on. How's everybody doing? Woo! Good. You guys excited for a good chat today? All right, let's kick this off. Jeff, what is not working?
What is not working? That's a good question. I mean, I think the point in where we are today is it's got to be speed. So time kills all deals. And that's, I think, the biggest function of what we see today. We're kind of in this exponential growth.
Yep.
And startups, in our view, have to go from market to paper to market within 12 months or to scale within 36, or we fail them.
That seems a little different than a lot of people. How many people feel that way? Idea to live in 12 months and then kill it within 36 months if it's not making enough to sustain itself.
Not
correct?
Scaling. Correct.
How many people feel that way?
I win.
I hear like one clap out there. That's really bad. We need to take some of these startups out to the shed. And so what made you come up with that? Like why? Because you see a lot of these companies that are, being purchased and that being much further down the road. So why the 3 years?
Well, I think, it goes back to when I founded. I founded the company 8 years ago. And the original idea was we raised some capital and we were going to found our own companies and exit them to corporates. Because the thesis there is if we can find a way to use corporates' assets in a new way while creating market value, we can create an unfair advantage. So we did that for a while. And then we needed more access, so we tried to run a process to partner with some firms. Nobody wanted to partner with us. They just wanted to buy us.
Yeah.
And so we were acquired. Then I learned two very valuable lessons. One, change of control provisions, and two, independence of an auditor. Blew up our model, licked my wounds for a while, and then we started the third version, what is digital ventures, which is rather than founding our own companies, let's create portfolios of companies and then either invest in ones that exist or found our own. So we founded 40 companies over the last 4 years, which is quite significant. And what we found is that the speed matters. Time kills all deals. If you take too long, digital has the shelf life of milk, and you need to get it out. And all companies pivot, as we call it. So the function of speed is very important, and the function of attracting right talent is very important, and the ability to pivot. All that is predicated on speed. And we have, probably 98% of the startups out there, 99. Your exit's going to be a corporate. It is not going to be an IPO.
Yeah.
And so almost all of our exits are into corporates, and we find that once we get to scale, which is usually around that 36 months, we do have a few exceptions to the rule. They're at scale, they get exited, and you got your exit.
So tell us a little bit more about the founding of your company, because obviously it's not the traditional venture model. It's not you're going out and putting money in a bunch of different companies. These are all your own companies and your own ideas. Why did you guys choose to do this?
Well, we wrote a method down 8 years ago, and this method is pivoted. We got about version 7,000 of it. And the idea there is if we can find and develop a portfolio that centers around friction, friction's my word. If you don't have friction, you're a solution in search of a problem. And that idea was if we could come up with the companies and then map talent to them, we can go faster.
Yeah.
And so unlike most VCs, which are kind of passive investors, they wait for the founders to come to them, we come up with a lot of our ideas, and we also then look for the founders that map to those ideas or already have a company in that idea. Yeah. So that changes us from a thesis-driven investment firm, which to take your shotgun and shed thing, if you take a shotgun and shoot a wall, the spray is your thesis.
Yep.
We're a concept-driven investment firm. That means it has to map the concept, so it's more like a laser-sighted gun, shoot it through the hole kind of function. Yeah. So that we learned and allowed us to grow quite quickly. And we've learned through the way, we've learned that we can't just invent our own companies. We need to create portfolios and then go out to the market and look. And we're also very early stage. So we're idea to A. And if you look at most investment firms, the kind of venture capital thing looks like a bent table with the two legs. Idea to A to B, and B out. Most VCs are in A to B. That's where, on a risk-adjusted basis, that's where your returns are. What we've done is gone from idea to A, and we bend that up by adding strategic value. Therefore, we arbitrage the difference. So it allows our startups and our founders and the startups that we work with an unfair advantage.
So when you're thinking up an idea, what does the idea have to have?
Well, it has to have, when we look at investment cases, they have to have 13 components for us to invest in them. So the first one is, what's the purpose of the company? why does it exist? What's it doing? Second, most important as well, is what's the friction? Friction, my word. We look for market friction, looking for a market that wasn't there. Then you need access, which we call expected friction. That's pain points and emotions. And then you need to make money, which is what we call latent friction, designing an experience you didn't know you wanted until I showed you, Steve Jobs. Then third, we look at why now? Too early, too late. Fourth is corporate alignment, because most of what we invest in has a corporate partner either with us or will have with us.
Now, when you're building that corporate partner, do you think of them for the investment model or for the acquisition model?
The investment model. We're very, so that's...
So the goal isn't to have them acquire you, which would be nice,
yep.
But the goal is to have them really...
Yeah, and think about how many startups would like to have, Target, if they're in a retail space, as one of their investors. What would that do for their credibility? Think if you're in the energy space and you want to have Shell, or think about if you're in the financial services space and one of the large banks is one of your investors. So there's a real advantage to that, and so and that's our synergistic relationship with BCG. We're a subsidiary of them. We're the venture arm for them. They have, I think, 2,300 clients. We have 57 corporate partners, so we're pretty exclusive in that relationship. But the fifth thing we look for is what's the solution, what we call preferred reality, and then what's the minimum viable product. Minimum viable product, by the way, is the most bastardized word, I think, in the space right now. It's not a prototype.
It's the MBP.
Yeah.
Most bastardized M.
Oh, we won't go into spelling. But it's if you and I were building transportation from point A to point B, the preferred reality be a car, the minimum viable product would be a scooter. So that's what we're looking for there. Sixth is the competition. If you're not 10 times better than the competition, don't do it. The adage there is we're looking for painkillers, not vitamins. Painkillers you need, vitamins you don't necessarily need. Seventh is...
Explain that a little bit more.
Well, if you forget to take a vitamin, you still are okay.
Who takes vitamins here? I do not.
Yes. So, but when you need a painkiller, you need a painkiller. So it's
who takes painkillers? Don't answer. We don't want to know. But yeah, when you need a painkiller, you have to have it.
Right. So that's what we look for there. Seventh, we look for what makes it defendable, the IP. Eighth, what's the addressable market, big enough to care?
Yeah.
Ninth, what's the business model? How does it make money? 10th, what's the go-to-market? How are you going to take it to market? 11th, what's the ecosystem? 12th, what's the team? And 13, what's the roadmap and capital? So everything we look at has those 13.
So walk me through your favorite startup that you guys have built over the past couple years, and how did that idea come about? Why did it come about? And walk me a little bit through the process and the mentality behind it.
So we've founded over 40 companies, so we could play around with that. We're in financial services, health, industrial
goods. Notice how he avoided the question a little bit there. We invested in 40, so he doesn't have to pick his favorite.
Exactly. So I got a lot of founders that would be upset if I said that. So I think the most significant investment area that we're in right now is we're working on the third protocol of the blockchain. So we put a company out there called Devolution that's spinning out of us now. That'll probably be one of the most significant startups we have. We've been investing in it over now 6 years through 2 iterations of what we've been doing. And it's really focused not on the Bitcoin or the ICOs, which I think a majority of them are going to go away, but really on the third protocol where you solve some of the scalability issues, some of the speed issues, some of the performance issues, and then you'll have a host of what we call pan-industry platforms associated with it. So that one is probably our most significant.
So what would be your goal on an exit?
On an exit, we look for scale because, honestly, it's about saying I built that building, that building, that building, not that I extracted this return, this return, this return. Yeah. So we look for, investments, and we look to things that have long-term scalability and that are, have the opportunity to make markets is also exciting to us, and that's why we're pretty excited about the third protocol and stuff we're doing there.
Love it. So there's a lot of startup founders in here that are creating companies. Who's creating a company right now? Anybody in the audience? Yeah, about half the audience is creating a company. What do you truly look for? What's the most important thing you look for when starting a business?
I think if I look at, there are 3 things that I believe all startups fail for. First and foremost is product market fit. And we're pretty good at helping our founders, everyone in DV, and we have 650 people, so we're quite significant.
It's not your typical venture firm.
No, we're probably the largest in the world by people, by about 4 or 5 times. We're also global. We're in LA, New York, London, Berlin, Shanghai, Tokyo, Sydney. And so, but all of the startups we have and the way we invest in China is exactly the same way we invest here. They all tend to fail for 3 reasons. Product market fit is the first one, and we're pretty good at figuring that out. Second one is capital, and we have a couple of funds, one captive, one external. We're a GPLP, and then we build a host of special purpose vehicles. And if you look across all of the clients that we have access to, there's about $2 trillion on their balance sheet. And with some of the policy changes in the U.S. with the cap gains change or the tax code changes, that just accelerates our opportunities there. So capital typically isn't our problem. But third is talent. And talent is the number one, I believe. And talent tends to go where it has option value, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the thing we were talking about. Any decision in life you make, you should have more options post a decision than you had prior, or it's probably a bad decision. Now my wife says, what about marriage? And I'm like, well, that's the outlier. But
so true.
We're able to attract a pretty good...
So true.
We cannot start talking...
That's kind of a question you just don't answer.
Exactly.
You just stay silent on recommendation tips.
We'll move on from there. So, but if you look at the options that we give talent, we're able to attract a lot. Is most talent, like this is why I think corporate incubators are semi-challenged, right? They only offer those entrepreneurs one option. The corporate has to acquire everything. If you look at VCs, we give you 2 options, right? We'll get you sold or we'll IPO you.
Yep.
If you look at our model, we give you 6. So first and foremost, we create a kind of a fish tank for corporates to acquire you.
Yeah.
Second, with our partner or our parent company, BCG, we can attract other companies together and form joint ventures and execute that way. Third, if we find a whole bunch of people like them, we can IPO you. Fourth, and probably the most important one, we'll acquire it. It failed. We give the entrepreneur another chance, unpack the IP, and try again.
Yeah.
Fifth one, you can get tired of being an entrepreneur and come work for us. And sixth one, you can work for one of our corporate partners. So that gives us the ability to attract talent that I think is unmatched. And I think what I look for in that talent is passion. You want to run these things down. And if you have passion, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. I wish that were always the case. I've had a few very passionate startups that I've been a part of that doesn't work, but it seems like you take them and repurpose them into other passion projects that incorporate what you're doing. Speaking about that, I'm a very passionate person. When do I take my startup out and kill it? When do you guys set that 3-year mark? Now, obviously, that's not like a firm like, here's this. It sounds like it's like around this time, but and I'd imagine a lot are before that even. But how do you decide when to kill your startup? Because I'm sure there's a lot of founders in here who have been working on something for years and years and years, and it's not working out. And sometimes we just don't want to admit to ourselves, I've been there, don't worry, I've worked on startups for years, knowing that they were a failure, but I keep wanting to get it out. How do you programmatically, because you guys have all these companies, so you guys need to set rules on this.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're early stage, so different venture firms are going to have different theses, and they may want longer term. Some like longer term bets, and those are fine, but we're very early stage. We look at, because we develop our own deal flow, globally we're looking at between 500 and 1,000 deals a month. So we have to have those guide rails for us. And so if you're not getting to market within 12 months, the issues that we see is we're in what we believe is an exponential market, right? So technology has through the last couple of 100 years, moved at very much a linear path. Then if you take the space race in about 1957, we started to see an exponential path of technology innovation. And if you take 30 linear steps, 31-meter linear steps, how far have you gone? 30 meters. If you
extremely far.
Now, if you've taken 30-meter 1-meter exponential steps, how far have you gone?
A little bit further than the 30 meters, correct?
You circumnavigate the Earth 26 times.
I'm doing my math,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
So that exponential growth means that we're moving more from 2018 to 2019 than we did from 2017 to 2018 than we did from 2010 to 2015. Yeah. So we're moving in a much faster pace, and that's why we look for that speed to market. And then the scale function for us. So for us, it's that 12 by 36 for, I think, the entrepreneurs out there. If you're looking at why you're not getting traction, I would go back to those 13 blocks. Is your purpose off? Is the friction off? Are you a solution in search of a problem? Is the competition? Are you not 10 times better than the competition? Is your IP not defendable? If it's not defendable, it's a race to the bottom. So I think you got to go back and you look at those components and you say, that's what we do when we fail things. They fail on one of those elements, and we take them out.
What's one of the biggest mistakes you've made?
And not having change of control provisions when I was acquired.
Yeah. Remember that, you guys. Change of control provisions.
Yes.
What would be your number one piece of advice to entrepreneurs out here in the audience that are, in a situation where they're starting a company and growing that company? What would be your number one tip for them?
I think, don't forget, you should have passion about what you're doing. If you don't have passion, stop doing it. Don't forget, equity is just deferred income. So don't be thinking so much about equity. We get a lot of that. We do two types of deal structures with us. We do performance deals, which actually move forward a lot of that payment, and equity deals. So I think the big one is passion. And if you don't, I see a lot that just don't really, when they come in and talk to us about their startup or we see pitches, if they don't have passion, I can tell you we never write a check. And it won't even get through our process. So the people that have passion, there's this adage, you don't judge the pitcher, you judge the pitch. I judge the pitcher. So if the pitcher's good and the pitch is bad, we'll help them come up with the right pitch.
Yeah.
That's the
Unless the pitcher is horrible.
Yeah.
Then we probably want to make adjustments.
Yeah.
But I really can't speak enough towards that. You guys, passion should lead what you guys are doing. But truly, know when it's time. Like if your startup's not working out, know when it's time to take that out, back behind the shed and let go of it. And you guys, I want to give a special thanks to Jeff. Something you guys did not know. He had surgery this morning. He got stitches. He had surgery this morning. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you, guys. Well done, man.
Thanks.